The legendary fairy and flying type Pokemon Enamorus Incarnate Forme is coming to Pokemon GO, and this time you do not need to do elite raids in order to get it. I'm going to be telling you how you could take down Enamorus in this video and why it actually matters. Okay, how's it going everyone? Count Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon GO raid guide video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. For today, we're going to be talking about Enamorus Incarnate Forme. This is a Pokemon that Niantic originally introduced through elite raids, but now it is coming to regular 5-star raids in celebration of the Valentine's season. And I will say that this Pokemon is actually quite good. It is considered a top tier fairy type when it comes to raid battles, so this is definitely one you will want to farm up. If you're lucky enough to get yourself a 100% IV of this Pokemon, then you will want the candies to max it out, because it's going to be a really good and a reliable fairy type raid attacker. So let's talk about how you could take down Enamorus Incarnate Forme in raids. It's actually quite easy and very straightforward. You just need to make sure you're bringing the absolute best counters. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, Enamorus Incarnate Forme is going to be a fairy type and a flying type. This gives it weaknesses against electric, ice, poison, rock, and steel types, and it's going to have a double resistance against dark types and grass types, as well as a regular resistance to bug, dragon, fighting, and ground. Now, if you want to get perfect IVs for Enamorus Incarnate Forme, you will want one that is 1957, and if it's weather boosted, it's going to be 2447. Enamorus is going to be weather boosted by cloudy weather and windy weather, and when it comes to getting perfect IVs, I really suggest you try to get it because Enamorus is going to be a top tier fairy type. So getting yourself a 100% IV for this Pokemon is definitely going to do wonders for your account, especially if you're lacking in really good fairy types. This is definitely going to be a reliable Pokemon in the future. Now, if you want to take down Enamorus, you only need 4 trainers total in the raid group, so long as everyone is bringing the best counters and everyone has at least level 30 Pokemon. And if you want to challenge yourself and you're a high enough level, you could duo this raid boss with just one other trainer. Just make sure both of you are bringing the absolute best counters and they're all at a very high level. Now, speaking of best counters, you will want to go with Mega Gengar with poison type attacks as your Mega Evolution. It's going to be the highest DPS Mega Evolution that you can bring. And then in terms of non-Mega Evolutions, you will want to go with Duskmane Necrozma. It is by far going to be the absolute best Pokemon you could bring to this raid. And if you happen to have any really good Shadow Metagrosses and Shadow Magnezones that are at a high level in your collection, you should also bring those, but just make sure you go with either Steel types or Electric types for either of them. Do not go with Shadow Metagross with, let's say, Earthquake. That's not necessarily going to deal a lot of damage, but if you have one with Meteor Mash, that is definitely going to create a huge impact. And then there is another really good option that's kind of an alternative. If you kind of want to tailor your team around having a bunch of Mega Gengars, then you could also bring Nihilego with poison attacks. That's going to be a pretty decent Pokemon up against Enamorus Incarnate Forme. Now, let's say you do not have any of these Pokemon, considering how difficult they are to get and how expensive they are to power up, then you could just simply go with regular Metagross with Meteor Mash. That's going to be a top counter. And considering Enamorus is typing, you could pretty much go with a whole plethora of different Pokemon. Just make sure they have attacks that fall into the weaknesses that Enamorus has. So yeah, it's as straightforward as it gets. This is a very powerful fairy type or a flying type, so whatever your best counters are for either of those types, those are the Pokemon you will want to bring. Now, of course, when it comes to the absolute best counters that you could bring, which is going to be your best steel types, those are all pretty easy to get, and some of you probably already have them. I think the big highlight is going to be Duskmane Necrozma. That is a Pokemon that is almost as powerful as some Mega Evolutions, so that is definitely one you will need to bring. Just make sure you're bringing steel type attacks. And then speaking of Mega Evolutions, you could go with pretty much anything that is going to be a hard counter, but a lot of players will say that Mega Gengar is going to be the best option, and the reason for that is because of the high number of DPS that glass cannon does bring. But another great option is of course going to be an ice type Mega Evolution like Mega Glalie or Mega Abomasnow. Just keep in mind that when it comes to Mega Abomasnow, it is weak against flying type attacks, so that is something you should keep in mind. It could end up being knocked out pretty early, and also just consider that most people in your raid party will probably not bring ice types to begin with. So yeah, I will say that Mega Gengar is probably the best option, but in the future, we will probably get Mega Metagross really soon, and that is going to be the absolute best Pokemon for this encounter, but as of right now, because we do not have it, you should go with Mega Gengar, and a whole team of your best Steel types right behind it. But yeah, with that said, that's essentially going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts regarding the return of Enamorus down below. Are you happy that it is not in Elite Raids and you're able to get it with just regular 5-star raids? Definitely share all of your thoughts and opinions down below, and let's have a great discussion. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. I hope you really found it to be informative and helpful. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget that notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. Real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You all make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Jinsula channel, the absolute best way you can do that is always going to be by joining my Patreon. If you decide to become a paid Patreon member, I will add you to my Pokemon Go friends list. So that means for stuff like remote raids and the friendship system, if you want to play Pokemon Go with me, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. With all that said, that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you in the next one.